Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another sexy, exciting episode of Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group. We have got, a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the socio-economic impact of safety, of the provision of safety in the nighttime economy, or as we now call it, the social economy. I'm joined, as ever, by Gary, and I've got also with us today world-famous super economic superstar and placemaker himself, is Alistair Turnham of Make Associates. Cheers for turning up, Ali.
No problem, Ian. Anything for you?
Yeah.
Well, not anything, but
yeah,
most things.
Most things. Right. So we'll get with the introduction. So first of all, Gary, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you for the introduction, as always, Ian. Well, as you know, I've been in the industry for 37 years, working frontline. I've covered all aspects of security, which can be covered, apart from cyber security. Not my bag, I'm afraid. But I've been a trainer, been a CP operative, working with high-class clientele. I've trained in the industry. I worked in the NHS as a response officer during COVID, and I'm currently still on the ground working hard.
Thanks, Gary. And I'll just say who I am, which is basically I'm Ian Fox. I have a wealth of experience across a whole host of things within the nighttime economy and social economy, because I just love it. It's brilliant. It's the most exciting place to be. So I'm now going to hand over and ask our guest, the person we're actually here to see. I actually wore a shirt for you. I haven't worn a shirt for anyone else. You're the first one, Alistair. So
well, not even my wife when you take her out for a date.
No. You were there. You saw.
No, I did see. Yes, you were in a sweatshirt or something, weren't you? Hoodie.
Yeah, that's right. See, Gary.
Well, I did comment on the shirt today, Alistair, because I said, "Oh, do I need to wear a shirt as well?" He goes, "You're a very important person." And I was going to actually change and put a shirt, tie, and blazer on just to overdo it, but I thought, nah.
You look like you're sort of about to go and do a training session for some running or something. You look like you're ready to rumble.
I'm always ready. Have to be in my game.
Exactly.
We're not all ultra runners. Thing, my God, when I heard you started doing that, I thought, geez, because when I saw you've never been a big bloke. You've not been like me, a big old porky boy, as I have been at times. You've always been very dapper ever since I've known you, and fit as a fiddle. And then you went off and did this ultra running, didn't you?
Yeah, but now these days I'm too desk bound, putting on the pounds in.
No. Gary does, what is it, Muay Thai, is it?
Muay Thai Muay Thai boxing.
Yeah,
Don't forget, I am a second dan in jiu-jitsu as well, Ian, and I was the England coach for over 10 years in Muay Thai.
Well, don't worry, mate. I won't hold it against you. But let's move on. And
people probably aren't interested in my ultra running and climbing exploits, are they? They're probably more interested in the other area that I have a little bit of knowledge about, which is nighttime economies, right?
Yes. So first of all, tell us how you wound up in this field.
Yeah, well, I've not been in it quite as long as Gary, but in my discipline within it. But I back in the mid-90s, early 90s even, I did a first degree on the nighttime economy because I was DJing, going clubbing. I really loved nightlife. I still love nightlife. Bit less clubbing, although still some, depending on how exciting the club is or how good the DJs are. And I just wanted to do stuff around that, like that was my passion, and it still is. And so when I was at Leeds, in university in Leeds, I did a first degree on on how you manage nighttime economies and cities safely. And at the time, there was a lot of talk around cafe culture in the UK, and why couldn't we have more civilized a cafe culture style that we'd seen in Europe. I'm sure we'll come back to that at some point in this discussion. And I was just really interested in it because I did a planning degree, so I come at it from an architecture and planning perspective, right? So I did a dissertation on that, and then what I did after that was I converted that into a nighttime strategy for Leeds City Council, and it was very primitive. But the funny thing is that, and that was 1996, so we're 27 years on from that almost now, and the things that I'd sort of cobbled together in that are basically the same things that we talk about now. Sure, we have a much more sophisticated understanding, and we've been on a very long journey around all the aspects and the composite parts of how you manage a city at night, and who is it for, and how is it safe, and how can we make it safer, and things that might be more your bag. But the things still stand, right? So I sometimes at conferences get out the front page, the contents page of that first dissertation, and put it up on screen and say, well, that's what we were writing about back in 1995, 96. Why have we made so little progress in many areas over the years, right? And that's a bit unfair, but it's always a good starter, right? And so then after that, I got involved in research around nighttime economy and around user behavior, a little bit of that. But for a long time, I had to do a lot of other work in social research field, working in social research companies. I did all sorts of stuff for the NHS, for councils, for business improvement districts, because nobody for a long time was interested in how you manage the nighttime economy. No one was interested in the value of it. And then probably about 2006-07, Paul Davis, who was at the Civic Trust, who some people watching might know, Paul came up with the idea of purple flag, right? So a bit like blue flag for beaches, green flags for parks. And it was very much his idea, but I helped him develop it into, essentially what it is today, and I still sit on the accreditation panel for that. And now there's a purple flag scheme in Australia, New Zealand, it's franchised out to Sweden. Ireland's been a big success on that. So we might want to come back to that at some point. But around that time, purple flag and the strategy stuff that I was doing was always very much about how can we positively shape the evening and nighttime city, right? But then post the 2010 general election, had a new Home Secretary. You may remember her, Theresa May. I don't know if she's the longest serving, but I looked her up early and she had a full 6 years, didn't she? Which was incredible, considering we probably had about 35 Home Secretaries since she became Prime Minister briefly. And her and her ministers and sometimes civil servants at that point in time, and I can see why they possibly did it at that point in time, majored on the impact of alcohol-related crime in our towns and city centres, and sort of in concert with the likes of the Daily Mail and the Daily Express, endless visions of what we call the famous drunk girl on a bench picture, which is the one that every stock image that everyone from the BBC to those media outlets would use, representing the evening and nighttime economy in our country. And Theresa May would give speeches saying about the amount that the nighttime economy and alcohol-related disorder was costing the country. And at that point in time, it was a finger in the air thing. It could have been 10 billion, it could have been 20 billion, depending on what you wanted to include or exclude from that figure in terms of ambulance, police time, mopping up the vomit from the streets, which apparently was in every town and city. And it was a carpet of vomit, right? So I got a bit bored of hearing that, because while I accepted that there were certainly challenges and there were problems with the evening and nighttime economy, for me, one of the things that was getting lost in that message was how many people were going out and having a great time, not coming into any kind of safety issue, not causing problems, which is the vast majority. Who knows? Nobody's done research on that, but probably 99% of people who go out on a Friday and Saturday, even back then, were probably having a perfectly eventless time in terms of problems. So we started measuring. I came up with this idea that we should measure the value of the nighttime economy to UK PLC. And while I'm conscious, and I always talk about this in terms of, it's so much more than the economic value, and we mustn't get bogged down in just how much it's worth. We must talk about the cultural value, the fact that people form relationships and meet their future partners, and it's about art, it's about culture, it's about expression, it's about identity, it's about safe, hopefully, spaces for minorities or for those who want to pursue different lifestyles to express themselves. All of those things that we're passionate about creating in the nighttime. I did feel it was important to put a value on it, because when you measure something, you can start to argue for why it should get more resources, why people should take it more seriously, etc. So around 2000. Sorry, I've monologued away there, haven't I?
No, Ali, it's brilliant.
It's supposed to be a conversation,
I'm going to say that anyway. Obviously, I'm not going to say, "Oh no, you're rubbish, get off." Am I? But it's not the Gong Show. But I just wanted to say about measurement of accidents and issues within the nighttime economy. Around that time, there was work, wasn't there, by Professor Shepherd and somebody who is going to be on the show shortly, Professor Simon Moore.
Right, yeah.
You know Simon, don't you? In fact, Simon was one of those people who first brought me into a deeper understanding of what goes on. But there was quite a lot of work done, wasn't there, around that? And I can remember doing some research where it showed that in actual fact the times when a door supervisor, as they were known then, was about 900 to 1. The incidence of them actually taking part, it was phenomenal. They're hardly ever involved. So you put that into context of, say, 1,000 to 1 incident that something's going to happen where there is any need for enforcement, and it starts to sort of pale into significance, doesn't it? I mean, Gary, you'll have a better idea of what's happening on the ground. Is it constant fight after fight, as the Daily Mail and others would others believe?
Well, of course it isn't. I mean, if we're going to start going back to the to sort of late 80s and 90s, and that was before the SIA came in, as you know, I can honestly say probably every weekend near enough you had a altercation of some sort. Since the SIA came in 2001 or 2003, was it 2003? I can't remember now. 2003 or 2001, wasn't it? 2001. Anyway, by the by. Again, my experience working in London home counties, again, we were still having issues up until, I don't know, mid 2000s, 2010, 2013, 2000. Things sort of declined after 2014, and it wasn't so much a case of there was altercations. People started being a lot more professional or attempting to break things up rather than being fisticuffs and on the door and bits and pieces. And now, I mean, it is rare. It is rare. You're seeing more things in. I tell you where we see more things now in the sort of retail area and supermarkets, things like that. I think they're getting more problems than what you're actually nightclubs and bars are getting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I suppose what we're trying to say is sort of reinforce your point that the nighttime economy or social economy, etc., is actually was probably and definitely is now a far more civilized space. We do like the word civilized space here, is than it used to be. I mean,
just to interrupt there again, I mean, up until pre-COVID, I think things were very much on the way down on sort of antisocial behaviour. A lot of the places we were dealing with was very, very minor. If we were getting one a month within our remit of area we were dealing with on the sites and venues I dealt with, they were literally dropping down. Since after the pandemic, things have increased, and that's. But then again, I say that things have increased, but they've also now seemed to be dropping back down. So after the lockdown, people coming out, we suddenly had an influx of sort of incidents happening. I mean, one event we worked at, I had 18 staff assaulted back in 2021. So, and we've never had 18 staff assaulted, but that was after the COVID, everyone's come out and what have you. Now, so far this year, I think I'm the only person who's been assaulted in the company. So,
and rightly so, in my opinion.
So, Ian, you're supposed to be arguing against violence against
come on,
against guest safety officers, aren't you? Are you all right, Gary? By the way, are you all right? You seem okay.
I'm okay. I'll be just there. I think actually, I think it's twice this year, or maybe not. I'd have to check my records, but I've definitely had one punch in the face this year by someone. I call them a hit and run. You know, just a wild swing, because they got taken out all nicely, and then they just turned around, and you know, I just got caught it, and that was by a nice female person who didn't like the.
Well, it hasn't spoiled your good looks.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I appreciate that. I'm still working on it.
Anyway, and sorry for the thing, but so we, as I say, I did want to reinforce the point that you've made, that in actual fact, the social economy is actually a great space and a safe place for people to inhabit by and large. So where did you take it? You know, what, so you've now thought, I'm going to put some money, or not some money, you're going to put some figures and show what it's worth, the value of it.
Yeah, well, I did put some money in because nobody was prepared to invest in
it. Oh, right. I didn't realise.
Understanding it, right? So it was down to us, really. Where do we take it from there? Well, I think the figure that we came up with in 2010, and I worked with some economists on this, was £66 billion, right, for the nighttime economy. Let's keep calling it that for the moment. We can come on to social economy later, right? Anyway, that figure, we didn't update the study because it was an expensive thing to do, and you know, no one was paying us to do it, right? But we did do independent studies of cities around the UK and help them understand the value of their social economy to their city, right? And I think that did, in some places, we did quite a bit of work in Liverpool, that did help them really consider investing in their evening and nighttime strategy. So if you look at that city now, they were the first out the blocks when COVID happened to support businesses with outside dining and without walls. Their scheme to help give grants to businesses to build outside spaces so they can continue trading. There's a legacy in that city, particularly after the City of Culture, of supporting their evening and nighttime strategy and developing it properly, resourcing it well within the constraints of public, you know, austerity and the decline in police officers. We can come to that as well, because that's one of my great bugbears on the street. I'm sure you've talked about it in the podcast before. And then to cut 13 years from there to here short, just done a lot of work around trying to get partnerships to work better in town and city centres to support the nighttime economy, trying to get them to take it seriously, trying to get them to improve their data, not just about the value of it, but about safety, about footfall, about how public transport is being used to get people in and out of cities, where people are going, where people are not going, why people are coming in and why they're not coming in. This is a really important part of what we do in terms of trying to understand why people are using it, their nighttime economy, or they're not using it, right? And I think non-users are really important. So maybe that's something you'd want to talk about. And then recently, we've been doing quite a lot of work around how work for the mayor, for Amy LeMay, and for the GLA, myself with Sylvia from 6 till 6, who run Best Buy None as well. We've been doing quite a lot of work on trying to understand how local authorities, licensing authorities, environmental health, etc., can support businesses to recover from the pandemic. So in terms of making licensing easier, trying to make enforcement more supportive, not necessarily regulatory unless it has to be, and trying to change the environment and change the narrative. Right? So there you go. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, how's it going? How